as more people come into crypto and see the opportunities, see the apps that are being built, and see how their existing phones maybe can't help them use all of these great things, Seeker is a really great entry point for them to increase their usage and continue to learn more and continue to try things. And then as time wears on, the software that we build, the software that all the ecosystem teams build, hopefully can swim upstream and start finding themselves on other types of products that people who maybe aren't crypto first, but are still crypto curious, can get access to whatever's next without needing to go and buy a crypto specific phone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin. This week, Solana Mobile started shipping its new crypto phone, the Seeker, a follow-up to last year's Saga. It had 150,000 pre-orders, which is a major step up from the initial interest in the Solana Saga, and it sports a whole new security setup. In this interview, I speak with Emmett, GM of Solana Mobile, about what's improved, what the major challenges are, and whether it'll have real demand beyond airdrop speculation. What I find interesting is how it functions as a self-custody device, and how they aim to resolve the tension between trying to keep crypto secure in an internet-connected device versus the convenience of that device. We also discuss the broader strategy behind Solana's mobile push and whether crypto phones have a future. Hope you enjoy our chat. At Unchained, we believe the future should be decentralized, and that includes our data. That's why we use Walrus, the fast, dynamic, verifiable data layer. Learn more about the platform that's powering our future at walrus.xyz. One early Bitcoiner sold 30,000 BTC too soon, missing out on over $1 billion. Don't want to make the same mistake? With Bank, eligible members can get instant cash without selling their Bitcoin. Check out zapobank.com/unchained for more. Imagine an AI that speaks crypto and does the work of a team of analysts. Trusted by 80+ institutions, now open to serious traders like you. Visit askfocal.com. Heads up, everyone, we've got exciting news. Bits and Bips, our Macro Meets Crypto show, is officially spinning off into its own podcast feed, YouTube channel, and X account. If you've been enjoying the deep dives into interest rates, monetary policy, and how they intersect with the crypto markets, make sure to follow Bits and Bips wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, and on X. You'll find the links to YouTube, X, and other podcast platforms in the show notes. If you're watching this, there's a QR code on screen. We'll be posting here for a few more weeks, but starting in September, Bits and Bips will launch on its own feed. For now, we will publish longer clips from the show on those accounts. Remember, go to the show notes now and subscribe to Bits and Bips, that's Bits, +Bips, spelled BIPS, on YouTube, X, and wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome, Emmett.
Hey, Laura, thanks for having me.
So congrats on the Seeker finally shipping this week. How are you feeling right now?
A little tired, but mostly excited. It's been a busy couple of days, weeks, months, years. So this is like a very, very fun milestone for us, getting to see actual customers receiving their actual devices.
Yeah, before we dive into the details on the Seeker, I'm just so curious. Right before we started, I asked you to put your devices in Do Not Disturb, and you said, I have 3. So please tell me your current phone setup. I just want to know.
So I currently have 3 devices on my desk. One is a production Seeker, so the brand new ones that started shipping out this week. This is what I've been onboarding my whole life to the last few days. But next to it, I have a pre-release prototype of Seeker that I had been using as a test device for a couple of weeks. And then I do have an iPhone on my desk, which I'm in the process of moving my whole digital life away from and back into Seeker.
Wow. I also just want to talk about, when you started working at Solana Mobile, which I believe was, 3-ish years ago?
Little over 3 years ago, yeah.
What was your overall goal? How were you thinking about how to approach this, kind of task or mission? And what problems were you trying to solve?
When we set out to do this, it was a pretty obvious problem that existed. Things have progressed a lot since then. We've made a lot of progress, but the problem still exists, which is developers who are building crypto-enabled products and users who care about crypto-enabled products have a very hard time finding one another. If you're a builder trying to distribute your app through one of the existing app stores and get around their arbitrary policies and be able to afford their extractive fees, made a lot of crypto products a non-starter in most app stores. Now, like I said, there's some openings that have been kind of appearing in the last couple of months. So some products are getting through, but historically it's been a major challenge. And from a user perspective, if you wanted to do anything crypto related, you were kind of relegated to being stuck to your computer. The best you could hope for on mobile was maybe your favorite product had an okay mobile website, and then you would open it up in the browser tab of the wallet that you downloaded. But that wasn't a great experience. It wasn't a secure experience. And so we set out to solve those problems. We wanted to bring builders and users together on mobile.
And so, one thing that's very noticeable, I received my Seeker late last night, you guys. I would have wanted to have content ready for the morning, but unfortunately, I literally happened to be in a tunnel underground, not getting a signal when they arrived on Monday to deliver it. And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that was like the one window when they tried to drop it by. But anyway, so yeah, I haven't been able to use it as much as I would have liked, but it's very slick and it feels very much like just any phone that you would, buy on the market. So I was just curious, like, because this phone, it just feels and seems quite different from the Saga. What were the issues with the Saga that you wanted to improve upon with the Seeker?
First and foremost, we wanted to make sure that it felt more portable. That sounds like kind of silly in the context of mobile phones. We think of them by default as being portable, but it's amazing how much of a difference just a little bit of size and a little bit of weight can make. And so one of the pieces of feedback we heard from many, many, many of our Saga customers was, this thing almost feels like too much to bring around with me, whether it's my primary device or whether I treat it as kind of my secondary crypto/financial device. It's just a lot to bring along. And so we wanted to make it smaller and lighter and easier to carry. But, somewhat paradoxically, as you make phones smaller, it gets a lot harder and a little bit more expensive. You're basically constraining yourself. You've got less battery space, less chip space. You have to be more thoughtful about things like building the antenna and all the parts. And so we set out to make something that was smaller, but didn't sacrifice on things like screen brightness or camera performance or all-day battery life. So it was fun to start from the drawing board, but we knew we had to if we wanted to be able to meet most of our customers' needs who really were craving something that felt still premium, but a little bit more easy to take on the go.
And did you have experience building mobile phones before you started working at Solana Mobile?
Me personally, no. Fortunately, the first hire, when Solana Mobile started, 3.5 years ago, Anatoly was like, we're going to do this. First person he hired, Steve Laver, has perhaps the most impressive hardware-backed CV of anybody I've ever met. He's built headphones and phones and smartwatches and you name it. So we had him around, which was extremely helpful. I came in to help build out the rest of the business and grow us and tackle everything from operations to support to product. But the two of us together have built this thing out, lending on his hardware expertise, Anatoly's systems engineering and background around chipsets, and then frankly, just a bunch of really talented hardware partners that we've been lucky enough to work with across both Saga and for Seeker.
And what was your background and how you came to crypto, let alone Solana?
Telling it chronologically, many years ago, I was working as a product management consulting, doing all things mobile. So like in the late teens, when every Fortune 500 company was saying, we need better mobile apps, basically. Like they all had super terrible mobile apps. They were just small versions of their websites. I worked at a company that helped basically start them from scratch and say, hey, look, mobile is a totally different landscape. You can't just take your desktop app and make it small. You have to start from scratch. What do your users care about? What do they want to do on the go? And so I really fell in love with mobile. Like it was still newish, but it felt like a really fertile ground to build some super interesting products. And so I built that experience and then went to work at Google for a few years, actually implementing AI for telcos. So kind of continued on the mobile-ish journey, a little bit more AI oriented. But that experience was really interesting because it gave me access to cutting edge emerging technology that frankly wasn't ready yet. Like it was pre-product market fit. It was before OpenAI had launched ChatGPT. It was before Google had launched Gemini. So we were trying to bring products to real customers around the world, maybe with technology that was like still trying to find its way. And so I was fortunate enough to know somebody who was at Solana Labs at the time, and he reached out and said, "We're starting this totally crazy moonshot. We're going to build a phone, and you've got mobile experience, you've got emerging tech experience. Would you want to jump on?" And at that time, I wasn't, super like head over heels all day, spending my time thinking about crypto, but I had found a love for the technology and was super interested. And so I said yes, and it's been a crazy journey.
Oh, wow, this is super interesting. So you weren't even like super into crypto. It was like you had some work experience with mobile phones and then they reached out to you and then you kind of got into crypto.
Yeah, kind of. I
Wow.
wasn't actively, there's a lot of people that we work with who have super strong crypto backgrounds. It's something they've cared about their whole lives, or for as long as it's been available. And for me, I definitely knew about and cared about it. I had a portfolio, I was trading, I had started my self-custody journey, but it wasn't the thing that I was like, I need to find a way in. Rather, I had a love for emerging technology, cutting edge tech, wanted to be doing something a little bit more nimble than what I was getting at Google. And the stars kind of aligned where it was a great company with some really intelligent people, some of whom I knew, and they needed some help. And I came on board. And since then, obviously, I've become much more crypto fluent. I've a real love for the products that are being built in our space. And so it's been fun. It's been like a good opportunity for me to, it had been a great opportunity for me to kind of get to know everybody a little bit better and get to know products a little bit better.
Yeah, it sounds like you probably went pretty quickly from casual user to like power user.
It was like overnight. Yeah, I was like, when I joined, I had, I definitely transacted. I had a Phantom wallet. I was kind of doing the bare bones swapping. This was still in the heyday of NFT trading, so I owned a few NFTs. But it definitely, I flipped a switch overnight.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about the Seeker more in depth. What would be the biggest features that you would want listeners to know about?
Yeah, two things. First and foremost, Seeker is the most secure place for crypto, period. We've built what we call Seed Vault. Seed Vault was available on Saga. Uh, to put it simply, Seed Vault keeps your crypto keys separate from the rest of the phone. It keeps it away from the operating system and from the apps. It's really designed to give you a fully secure self-custody experience on the go. And so with Seeker, we've improved it. We've kept the same technology, we've kept the same security, but we've made it even more usable. And on top of that, we've actually built a wallet, Seed Vault wallet, with our friends at Soulflare. And the purpose of tying those two things together is to really build what feels like an OS-wide transaction signing and connection experience. I think a lot of us are very used to the Google and Apple sort of payment models where no matter what website you're on or what app you're in, there's usually just an easy button to hit. And then before you know it, you've spent some money, and it was very seamless, but also very trustworthy. The purpose of Seed Vault and Seed Vault Wallet is to bring that type of experience to crypto, but make it feel phone wide. So I think that's kind of the first thing. And the second is the Solana dApp Store. I mentioned at the top, we want to create distribution. We want to be able to bring builders and users who care about crypto together. And so we've built an alternative app store that does not take fees from developers. It does not impose arbitrary anti-crypto policies, and has really become like a fertile ground of innovation of teams who are either building totally new products that we haven't seen before or extending the capabilities of their desktop apps into mobile. And so we're very excited about the discovery opportunities that are there as well.
Yeah, the first thing that you mentioned about the security of the phone, I'm not going to lie, when I was setting it up, and so okay, so for people who don't have one or maybe haven't heard, so basically, there's a little. So sorry, this is awkward because I'm trying to show it well. Anyway,
We'll do the same. We're
so
doing it
yeah,
together.
so there's a little button on the side, and then you like have a biometric reader there, so it like logs your fingerprint the way that like an iPhone will log your face or your eyes or whatever it's doing, your iris, or I'm not sure exactly what it's looking at. And then basically, I think it's something like, yeah, tapping your finger there is what allows you to do different transactions. When I was setting this up, I thought, "Ooh, that makes me scared. Like, what if I'm, like, holding the phone a certain way and I accidentally hit and but I don't mean to?" Or, and maybe it's just that I've interviewed so many people who have who are smart and, like, know about phishing, scams and whatever, and still have fallen victim. So how do you think about that? 'Cause, okay, so, we'll talk about that, but then one other additional question is just when you talked about the seed vault, the one of the selling points is like if somebody steals your phone, they can't, open the vault because they wouldn't have your fingerprint. Um, but then I wondered, in that case, then when you set up a new phone, will your fingerprint open the vault, or do you have to enter in the seed phrase? Or yeah, I was curious for that. So I know it's a multi-pronged question.
No, it's all good. All good questions. So first, in terms of making sure that you're not accidentally signing malicious transactions, the gesture to sign and connect on Seeker is actually a double tap, and then you place your fingerprint. And so that actually serves two really important purposes. And you'll notice that same pattern now that I'll kind of walk through it. You'll notice it more in things like Apple Pay and Google Pay as a very common practice, which is the first is a double tap. The double tap confirms that you're alive and that somebody, a real human, is using the phone, and that they are intending to do the thing that is being prompted in front of them. So rather than just sort of passively scanning your face or passively scanning your fingerprint as it sits there, nothing is confirmed without that double tap. So that's part one. And then part two is the fingerprint, or in the case of other phones, a Face ID. And that is to confirm you are who you say you are and that you have access. So it's about checking for liveness and then authenticating a user. And so in the instance that you talked about, if somebody snuck a transaction in front of you, just having your finger resting on the power button wouldn't sign anything. You'd get a bottom sheet, you'd have to double tap the power button, and then it would have to read your fingerprint. So you'll be safe from those types of attacks. As for losing your phone, having your phone stolen, it's not dissimilar from having another hardware wallet. So we wouldn't have it be so that if you bought a new phone, we would just instantly recognize your fingerprints. Fingerprints are stored locally. We're
Oh,
not
right.
backing any of that information up. We're very conscious about customer privacy, but rather when you go through the phone onboarding, in the box, we've got some seed card phrases or seed phrase cards. Just like if you got a new hardware wallet and you were setting that up for the first time, you'd want to write those down and keep them somewhere safe so that if, God forbid, you lose your phone or something happens to it, you can easily restore those wallets, hopefully into a new Seeker.
Okay. And just generally, so I love how you explain that about how there's intentionality behind the double tap and then obviously the biometric piece. Are there any other, aspects to building this security? Because I do think there's probably a tension, right, to having something that's accessible to the internet at all times, and yet you want to keep it secure. So are there any other features that have been added or other ways that you think about that tension?
That tension you just outlined is at the heart of designing secure systems, especially something that is intended to kind of meet users in a place that's historically really easy, right? Like smartphone apps have become so seamless to use. Like I spend money on Amazon constantly, mostly because it's just easy. Like it's like one tap and all of a sudden something's headed to my house. Trying to find that line between something that's extremely secure but also easy enough to use is really challenging. And so for us, we have made it so that Seed Vault is built in a very custom way down to this specific hardware. So, we couldn't just hand out a Seed Vault app and install it on any phone. It's very tightly integrated into this hardware. And the reason for that is that it can sit totally separate from the rest of what the phone does. You can't download it because it doesn't even know where apps get downloaded. Everything that happens in Seed Vault is totally separate. And so that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of development effort. It takes a lot of expertise. But we're confident that by taking that approach, we give users a much more secure version of self-custody than just relying on importing a seed phrase into an app that's running in user space or connecting to some existing wallet. We want to make sure that it is truly separate from the rest of what you're doing on your phone, because phones are great. They're very connected. They're very online, but you don't want to open doors for bad actors to potentially take your seed phrase or take your funds.
And is the technical language for that something like trusted execution environment, or I forget? There's
That's exactly right.
another
Yeah.
piece of lingo lurking in my
Yes.
brain somewhere that I can't remember.
The trusted execution environment is sort of the place that it all runs. It's within the secure element is the physical hardware. It's the piece of the chipset that houses all this stuff. The trusted execution environment is where those trusted apps run, and then those communicate via API back up into the operating system. And so that secure element that runs the trusted execution environment, that's actually the same setup that is used on all sorts of devices for things like storing your biometrics. If you've ever wondered on my iPhone, they scan my face and then they hash it, but like, how can I be sure that that's safe? Like, what if that just leaks out? The way that happens is through these totally separate elements that run the trusted execution environment. And so we've really taken advantage of that existing technology. It's, we didn't build something new. We didn't create a new type of hardware, but we're using existing hardware in a way that other smartphone manufacturers just won't.
All right, so in a moment, we're going to talk a little bit more about the security, but first, a quick word from the sponsors who make this show possible. At Unchained, we care about the future of decentralization. So it only made sense for our media content to be decentralized. That's why we use Walrus. It's the fast, dynamic, and verifiable data layer for on-chain builders. And it's not just data management. Walrus ties directly into smart contracts, unlocking new possibilities for programmable content delivery, subscriptions, and community engagement. So as we imagine what decentralized media can become, Walrus is the tech we trust to help build it. Learn more at walrus.xyz. Selling your Bitcoin just to get cash? One early Bitcoiner did and missed out on over $1 billion. With Bank, you can access up to $1 million instantly without selling a single sat. Eligible Bank members can borrow up to 40% of their Bitcoin's value. No stress, no selling, no buying back in. Use it for what matters most. Your dream home, your child's education, a getaway, or that can't-miss investment. With Bitcoin-backed loans, you're in control. Set your installments and repay in Bitcoin or US dollars, your choice. Enjoy competitive rates, zero fees, flexible terms, and no penalties for early repayment. And your Bitcoin stays safe, never rehypothecated, relent, or pooled. It's securely held until your loan is repaid. Check them out at zapobank.com/unchained. Looking for your next big trade? Want to track every move in your portfolio, news, unlocks, price action, and open interest in one place? Meet Focal, your personalized AI assistant for crypto. Built for institutions, now open to serious traders like you. Focal surfaces high signal insights, automates your workflows, and helps you move faster in 24/7 markets. Find out why the smartest desks use Focal to stay ahead. Sign up at askfocal.com. Heads up, everyone, we've got exciting news. Bits and Bips, our Macro Meets Crypto show, is officially spinning off into its own podcast feed, YouTube channel, and X account. If you've been enjoying the deep dives into interest rates, monetary policy, and how they intersect with the crypto markets, make sure to follow Bits and Bips wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, and on X. You'll find the links to YouTube, X, and other podcast platforms in the show notes. If you're watching this, there's a QR code on screen. We'll be posting here for a few more weeks, but starting in September, Bits and Bips will launch on its own feed. For now, we will publish longer clips from the show on those accounts. Remember, go to the show notes now and subscribe to Bits and Bips, that's Bits, +Bips, spelled BIPS, on YouTube, X, and wherever you get your podcasts. Back to my conversation with Emmett. So as we discussed, the wallet has this seed vault, but then it also has a native wallet, the seed vault wallet. And I was curious how that particular wallet differs from any other wallet, that comes with the phone, for instance, like the Phantom wallet.
So Seed Vault, maybe just to start, Seed Vault is an open technology. So it's very secure, it's very hardware driven, but we want to make sure that users have a choice. That's obviously super important in crypto. You don't want to insist upon you ever using one wallet provider or one software provider. So we've made Seed Vault open. There are a bunch of great wallets who have chosen to implement it so that if you have a Seeker, you have your choice and your seeds are safe regardless of which wallet you choose. Now, with that said, when we launched Saga, we did that same model. We kept the API open and we said, hey, wallet builders, we'd love to have you. We think this is a really interesting path forward. Please come work with us. But what we found was that this wasn't their baby like it was our baby. And so the attention to detail, trying to build this totally new type of wallet experience, really simplified signing, really simplified connections, it just never became the priority we hoped it would. And so it was frankly just kind of frustrating. Like we were constantly in a world where we wanted to see more and we wanted to see innovation. And it was just hard to get there. And so when we set out to build Seeker, we said, okay, we're going to take matters into our own hands. Just like 3 years ago, we decided to take matters into our own hands by building a phone in the first place and build a mobile first wallet that supercharges the Seed Vault experience. And so from a differentiation perspective, at its core, it does a lot of the stuff that you would expect a wallet to do, But what really sets it apart is how native it feels to the phone. When you're in Chrome or in a native app, if you hit the connect button, you'll be able to just connect directly to the wallet without any sort of back and forth. You don't need to go into a special browser tab within the wallet. It's all built on this connective tissue that makes it feel very seamless. So I can head to Jupyter in my browser, connect, I'll get a little bottom sheet, and then it'll disappear, and all of a sudden I'm in session rather than needing to do a million back and forths. So Seed Vault Wallet is really a usability focused product for us.
Okay, and so just so I understand, so when I'm using a third-party wallet, I have the choice of whether or not I want it to connect to the Seed Vault and use that as my security for that wallet. Is that what you were saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not dissimilar from having a hardware wallet, right? Like if I have a ledger and I plug it into my computer, I can connect to that wallet via Phantom or Soulflare and their browser extensions. I can also connect to Ledger Live, its standalone hardware or its standalone software product. Seed Vault is built very much in the same way, where it derives wallets for you based on your seed, and then wallet providers can connect to them so that you can use whatever software you want. It's just that we've also built our own wallet that we think takes special advantage.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was using it yesterday for the the brief time that I had. Unfortunately, there were just it's one of those things where what do they call it? Murphy's Law. That of course I had like a weird paperwork tie up with like my account where I like normally have the Sol. So it just took me forever to even get Sol in the wall. And was like, I just spent an hour. But anyway, all I'm trying to say here is that despite my personal issues, which are not phone related, it did feel pretty seamless. And there was even like a Robinhood option as well. That
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your both the journey to get the phone as well as your onboarding. There's still a lot for us to improve on. I think we feel really solid about the experience that we can provide, but the truth is, it's still kind of hard sometimes to onboard crypto into a wallet. Countless times I'm trying to bring new money on chain, and sometimes the on ramping works and sometimes it doesn't. So we want to make sure that everybody has a great experience. We work with some great on ramping partners. So hopefully we can get more and more customers bringing new funds into their new wallets. Again, sorry you had to deal with some bugs
Yeah,
yesterday.
that's not related to the phone. It was just
Okay.
my personal
Yeah, yeah.
situation. But so I wanted to talk more about the Solana DApp Store that's on the phone. Obviously you guys are, I could tell you're, admitting different apps into that app store. But then also certain ones were featured. And I wondered, are there certain criteria that you use for determining whether or not you'll admit an app into the app store? And then also other criteria for determining what will get featured?
In terms of submitting to the App Store, everyone is welcome to do it. We do have some policies that are available online. The long and short of it is we want to keep our users safe and secure. So any content or features that put them in harm's way, we're going to take a long, hard look at and make sure that we're not accidentally, publishing an app that's a flashlight and you turn the flashlight on and all of your funds get drained, for example. So first and foremost, it's about user safety and security. Beyond that, we're not super opinionated. We want to see all types of apps flourish, all types of innovation. And so we're very excited to be very crypto friendly and let all sorts of crypto based apps in. But exactly what apps succeed and what takes off, we're still excited. We don't exactly know what's going to be a hit with the community. But with that said, you mentioned we have kind of featured space at the top of the store. That is gearing us up for what we call Seeker season, which is coming in September. And so the criteria that we've been using to identify teams to fill those slots for us are once a week, starting in December, there will be something new and exciting and exclusive to Solana Mobile. I think that last part is particularly important. It has to be exclusive. And so whether it's an app that you can literally only download from our store, or an app who has some subset of features that are exclusively available to Seeker, or an app that's running an incentive campaign or a rewards campaign or an airdrop campaign, finding those types of partners who see the opportunity for our users and want to take advantage by giving them something exclusive, those are the folks that we're trying to line up. And we've had more demand than we've had slots. So it's been good. It's a good problem to try and solve for, trying to figure out exactly how to get all of our partners lined up to that program.
I have to ask because just listening to that, I thought Did the idea for this come from that BONK phenomenon that happened with the Saga?
The BONK phenomenon was an leading insight that got us here, not the sole one. BONK is kind of the one that everybody remembers from Saga, and we are very, very excited that that whole time and place happened because it gave us the opportunity to continue to learn and grow and sell more phones and ultimately led us to Seeker. So we're eternally grateful to the BONK team and the incentive program that they offered our Saga customers. But there were others. There were other teams who were shipping to the store, who were doing something exclusive, offering boosts, offering rewards. And time again in our research with users, they said that was like the easiest way for them to decide what to try. Because at the end of the day, for us, this is about products and about experiences. It's not just about free money. It's, what are really interesting, compelling crypto products being built. But the best way to get a user's attention, the best way to bring them on board is to incentivize them. And when you look across crypto, that can be kind of hard. There's a lot of bots. It's pretty easy to spin up a wallet. But if you know somebody has a real phone, that they received it at a real address, and they're doing actual transactions, it can be a lot easier for builders to offer up those exclusive programs.
And I'd love to take a tangent here and just actually hear what that period was like for you. Because I remember the funny thing is, I had Anatoly on the show literally I forgot, just, I don't even know, just less than a month before. And I had asked him about how the phone had not sold out and, what were their plans. I was kind of like, you tried this thing, where's it going next? And then after we published it, I don't remember, like a week or two later, then suddenly it's like flying off the shelves, like people are, selling it at a huge premium on eBay. So tell me from your perspective, what your life was like during that time.
Well, it would have been nuts no matter what. The fact that we just were selling thousands of phones seemingly every hour was a lot. It was super exciting. We knew we were going to keep the mobile bet alive. It was just a matter of what it looked like. And this gave us a lot more confidence to keep going. But for me personally, it was particularly nuts because I was also my wife was expecting our first kid. So his due date was December 11th. The whole kind of calamity started in the lead up to that. I think maybe on the 9th or 10th. We ended up selling out phones on the 12th or the 13th. So every night, middle of the night, I'm waking up, leaning over and saying, do we need to go to the hospital? Is everything okay? Are we good? We're past your due date. And as soon as she would say no, I turned the other way, opened my phone, check Shopify, check Slack. So it was like a totally insane couple days. And then as we were heading out and we knew that he was coming, I said, okay, so are we doing this again? Everyone said yes. And I said, all right, I'll be back in a little bit. Let's do it. And here we are.
Well, congratulations for surviving that period.
Thanks.
Actually, aside from Seeker season, are there other kind of plans to kind of grow demand for the phone? Because, I could see right now, obviously, you're very much targeting crypto users, Solana in particular, the Solana community. And, Apple last year sold 232 million phones. And, the fact that you have just sold 150,000 is great, obviously, for such a new product. But, how do you think about kind of the big task ahead of trying to make this a more mainstream product?
Yeah. Right now, our focus is 100% on Seeker. We've got more phones to sell. I think one of the misconceptions is we only ordered as many phones as there were pre-orders. That's not the case. We still have plenty to sell. So if anybody listening to this or online hasn't ordered, you can still head to store.solanamobile.com and get yours. So, we want to continue to bring as many of these to market as possible. The more users we have who are transacting regularly on these phones, the more developers will take advantage of the opportunity. And that will just start spinning the flywheel of builders bringing exclusive, interesting use cases to our platform and users spending money, trying products, and hopefully building this self-sustaining ecosystem. So we're going to work closely with teams around the world, whether they're product teams, whether they're Solana community teams, to help make sure that we're bringing products to their customers in a way that is meaningful and impactful. But as we look beyond Seeker, which it feels crazy to have started shipping phones 2 days ago and already be thinking beyond Seeker, but it's part of the job. We want our software to grow in as many places as possible. Like when we set out to do this whole thing, we chose to build hardware because we never could have just walked into a phone manufacturer and said, hey, crypto is going to take over. It's going to be really important. And you need to be first. You need to build great software. You need to build great experiences. You need to build security. they wouldn't have taken it seriously 3 years ago. We didn't have any proof. There was nothing there yet. We've now reached a point where we've continued to grow our audience. We're shipping more devices. We're going to have all sorts of interesting usage information, and we're just going to see these communities of users and builders grow. And so the next step for us is taking this software that we've built for Saga and improved for Seeker and find a way to bring it to other devices, whether that's devices people already own, new devices that haven't come out yet. All that's TBD. But our growth is really through new hardware partners and not always and forever only the Solana Mobile team and the hardware that we ship.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the other new features of this phone. So there's this Seeker ID. Explain what that is and why you decided to add that to this phone.
Yeah. Thinking back to what we've learned from Saga, when I talk about those incentive programs, whether it was BONK or one of the other teams who wanted to specifically provide something exclusive or something unique to our users, as I mentioned, bots are a real challenge. And so what we built with Saga was what we called the Genesis token, the Saga Genesis token. And so as you went through the phone's onboarding, you were able to claim this non-transferable NFT, and then it became soul-bound to your wallet. And so anytime you were transacting on chain, a builder could say, hey, we can see because of what's in this person's wallet that they are indeed transacting from Saga. We can give them this type of program. We heard not only from users that was great because it kind of felt like they were part of a club. There was this like membership component. There was this community component, but also from builders who were excited to be able to build programs on chain to recognize device holders. And so we carried that forward to Seeker, but grew it even further. And so in addition to having the Seeker Genesis token, we built that out to also include the Seeker ID. And the purpose of those two things coming together is this is a real person transacting on a real Solana mobile device. And with an ID and a tag, you can start to build out some of those social constructs. So whether it's social features within apps, social features between friends, peer-to-peer, and wallets, we wanted to give kind of a new vector. In addition to just making sending money easier than just the traditional pub key address, we're pretty confident that some of those social dynamics in our community will continue to flourish through the Seeker ID program.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? It kind of combines like a WorldCoin type aspect with just like an ENS or just any blockchain name service or crypto name service into one. So do you also see it having that sort of feature or being used in that way in the future?
I think potentially, yes. Obviously with World ID, there's a slight difference in that you go to an orb, it scans your iris. And so the ID there is really proof of identity. It's proof of uniqueness. For every one eyeball, there can be exactly one ID generated. For us, it's different because it's for every one phone, there can be one ID generated. And so it's not exactly a one-to-one. But it's a pretty good approximation. It's a lot easier for us to ship phones around the world than it is.
But I'm so confused because when I created mine, it said that I'd have to put in my Seeker ID and that it could not be changed. So if I get a new phone, do I change my Seeker ID or?
So for each phone, you can generate exactly one Seeker ID. If you bought a new phone and you wanted to transfer it, we could do that with you. But what we wanted to avoid was a world where someone bought a phone and then they claimed the Genesis token and they spun up an ID and then they reset it and they did it again. And then they reset it and they did it again and they reset it and did it again. So we've got some safeguards in place to prevent that type of abuse. And similarly, we didn't want to see a world where somebody buys a phone, they set it up, they get the Genesis ID, with the Genesis token and their ID, and then they package it back up and sell it to somebody else. And that person doesn't realize, oh no, all the value has been claimed already. So our program is built against one ID per phone, one token per phone, not necessarily one per person. If you own multiple phones and you want to transfer it, we can do that with you. But it's more so about trying to prevent abuse. We want to protect our builders from having their programs taken advantage of.
Okay. This then maybe is why I was wondering this other question. So the Saga was named the Saga, and this is named the Seeker. But if I can't transfer my Seeker ID, so then is the next phone going to be named something else and it'll have a different token and a different like domain name type or ID in it?
We, we don't have another device to announce yet.
You haven't
That
figured
gives
it
me
out.
like heart
Okay.
palpitations considering all the work we're doing right now to get Seeker out. But eventually there will be more devices that have our software. I think Saga as a brand was an interesting starting point. We're very committed to Seeker on a go-forward basis. So all of this connective tissue we're building, Seeker ID, we've announced SKR, the native asset of the Solana mobile economy, is coming. Seeker is here to stay as a brand. And so you could imagine in the future, if you owned additional devices, we would make it easier to bring that ID to multiple places. It's just that from Saga to Seeker, we've introduced new things, new ideas that it was a little harder to port backwards. And so in many ways, Seeker is a fresh start.
Okay, I see. So let's talk about more about the SKR token. It's described as the native asset of the Solana mobile economy. So what does that mean to you? Like what are all the ways you're imagining this will be used?
Yeah, I mentioned the growth of our ecosystem, this idea that our platform could exist on all sorts of future devices in the future, existing Android devices, smartwatches, you name it. Trying to build a system that is open so that all types of hardware manufacturers can bring their products to us is really challenging. And one of the main reasons it's challenging is all of those builders have to historically have to trust one central authority. Right? They have to say, okay, Google, we'll run your version of Android with your Google services. Hope we're allowed in, and we know you're going to monetize all of the users and keep all the money. That is very antithetical to crypto. And so we would hate to see ourselves basically fulfilling that prophecy of building a platform where we're at the center of it and we want everybody else to play by our rules. So if we're going to grow it, we also have to decentralize it. But you can't decentralize it without having some type of incentive mechanism in place. And so really what SKR is about is how do you keep users and builders and hardware manufacturers incentives aligned so that the platform continues to grow and flourish and usage continues to go up? And so we announced SKR is coming. It's not yet launched. We don't yet have a timeline for it, but when it launches, the purpose will be how do you secure the network and how do you give everybody an open opportunity to join?
Huh. Okay. Interesting. So I've heard you, I listened to one other episode you did, and it was released this morning, and excuse me. And I heard you talking about just how, for you, one of the big focuses developers. So how are you thinking about, how you're going to incentivize developers and like, why is it that that's so important for the Seeker now?
It's important because we can't build every app. The whole reason we got into this business was to give distribution to those builders. If you look at the Solana ecosystem, there's all sorts of interesting products that are not only interesting, but people are actually using. They're generating revenue, they're generating usage. But most of that revenue and most of that usage is on desktop. And so we're in the business of trying to help bring that usage into mobile. And so we have a great relationship with lots of ecosystem teams. We can't build every app that will ever exist. So we really need to work closely with them to help them bring their ideas to life. But also there's a bunch of teams that haven't started yet. Like there's builders who are out there who are curious, who have ideas. And historically their way into the Solana ecosystem was, okay, like I'll maybe join a hackathon or some type of accelerator and I'll ship a desktop app and we'll see how it goes. We want to give an alternative path that lets you come in directly through mobile. And so that's why we just today are wrapping up the first Solana Mobile Hackathon, which is really focused on trying to find that next wave of builders, teams who don't already have an app, who don't already have funding, who can kind of swing for the fences and start with like a totally new mobile idea that's not just a port of an existing desktop idea. And those types of investments, whether it's the prize pool for our hackathon or ongoing grants programs, we're hopeful that it provides just a little bit of an extra kick to get teams to take the opportunity seriously so that they can build sustainable businesses that just continue to run without us.
So here we are at this moment in time in crypto where I'm sure you're highly well aware that all of a sudden it seems like we're in this phase of mainstream adoption. We have seen just announcement after announcement after announcement. Some of the big ones were like Robinhood. They're going to be launching their own chain and doing tokenized stocks and all the things perps and Coinbase is doing its everything app, and JPM, is going to be doing its own like deposit token, and Shopify and whatever. There's just so many.
Yeah.
And we're hearing like Walmart and Amazon are thinking about doing stablecoins. So we're in this place of kind of heightened competition, and there's heightened competition amongst the different chains and ecosystems. So in that world, what role do you want the Solana Mobile or the Seeker to play in helping Solana fight that fight?
I would be hard pressed to imagine that all of those exciting announcements that you mentioned happen without succeeding in some way on mobile, whether it's everything apps, whether it's payments solutions, all of these things like we rely on our phones to do now, right? I don't even bring my wallet with me. I pay places with my phone, right? So I think the baseline assumption we have as a team is, yes, there's all of this exciting momentum. Clearly, there's mainstream adoption like right in front of us. Mainstream adoption has to in some way be fueled by mobile. And so we think we're uniquely situated to help support those efforts. Now, Seeker, as it stands right now, is a very, crypto user focused device. It takes all the great things that you need a phone to do, whether that's make phone calls or access banking apps or go on social media. It does those well, but then it augments it with great crypto-centric security and usability. So as this device stands, like, do I think every point of sale terminal in the country is just going to switch over to a Seeker? Probably not. I mean, that'd be great. Like, it'd be awesome, but it's pretty unlikely. I think what's more likely for us is that as more people come into crypto and see the opportunities, see the apps that are being built, and see how their existing phones maybe can't help them use all of these great things, Seeker is a really great entry point for them to increase their usage and continue to learn more and continue to try things. And then as time wears on, the software that we build, the software that all the ecosystem teams build, hopefully can swim upstream and start finding themselves on other types of products that people who maybe aren't crypto first, but are still crypto curious, can get access to whatever's next without needing to go and buy a crypto specific phone.
All right, Emmett. Well, it's been so great chatting with you and learning more about the Seeker. And again, congratulations. I'm sure you just must feel so, I don't know, relieved and proud and excited. So
thank you. Yeah, a little bit of those things. I keep joking with the team. It's simultaneously a finish line and a starting line, but it's a big milestone for us. And thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us today, everyone. To learn more about Emmett and the Seeker, check out the show notes for this episode. Catch y'all later.